Hey, good afternoon again. It's Frank. Welcome back. How y'all doing? Hopefully everything's going good. So, back with another video. And I kind of just thought about this a couple minutes ago here. So what I wanted to talk about today is, we'll call it planning. Planning for the future. Goals. I know we kind of talked about that probably in a couple I can't. Sorry guys, I got a little stutter going on in some previous videos. How about that? Spill it up. And what am I talking about? What? Yeah. No. At least one of the things that I do, and maybe this, I don't know, maybe it'll help you. Hopefully, especially in the month of December. And then kind of like, depending upon when I get I call it my rest of my vacation. I try to one of the things I want to do is catch up. But I tend to, I got all this stuff. I don't want to do this stuff. And so a lot of things that I do near the tail end of the year, right, in December, pretty much mid-December going into the new year. So I try to take care of some things that I do from an annual basis, like some home maintenance stuff. Make sure the air, the filters in the furnace are good, and kind of get prepped up that way. Okay, there's a couple of lights that I don't use all the time, but they're out. I got to put new bulbs in. That type of stuff, right? So I kind of, I like to ease into it. Sometimes every once in a while, I'll maybe just use a dedicated day. But anyway, getting back to planning. So that's another thing that I kind of do near this end here. And, depending upon the year, I used to do it very formally. And maybe I should get back to that. Or at least maybe write down a few things. But I don't want to say intuitive. I mean, I've been doing some of this stuff for quite some time. So, maybe I'm and I'm more of an intuitive person anyway, so I don't know. Sometimes I'm just kind of like, all right, we can I don't want to say wing it, right? I kind of know what we need to do, but it is actually, especially if you haven't done it a lot in a while, it's really good to at least write them down, and don't write too much stuff, unless you're using it as a honey-do list or something like that. Sometimes when I plan it, end up being a honey-do list, and then I'm kind of like, I go from one tangent to another. I'm talking about one thing. You guys kind of notice that, right, in my videos. It's like, wait a minute, Frank, you're talking about planning, and now you're talking about errands, and now you're talking... Sorry. I'm still working on that. But it's so that you guys laugh, man. Say, this guy's nuts, man. This guy's crazy. So anyway, getting back to plan, right? So kind of like, all right, so... at least for me, I kind of starts like, all right, what do I want to accomplish, right? Do I need to accomplish it? Number one, right? What? Number one, do I have to, is there anything I really need to get done before the end of the year, or something I want to get done, right? Because, once the new year starts, right, for me, work is, busy. The first couple of days, not so much. Everyone's kind of coming back, trying to get their groove back on. But then that first full week, it's brutal. It's like that first week feels like 4 weeks, and then... you got all these new deadlines. Here's the goals. This is what we need to do this year. Meeting here, meeting there. So, kind of scale that down to something unique to your own personal life. And kind of like you are your own boss, right? Or at least try, right? But what do you want? What I do, right? I'm like, all right, that's just items, right? But then I'm like, okay, so next year, right? Going into next year. Kind of think a little bit of, all right, I'll call it short term, right? Do I have something that I want to get done before spring, right? Because sometimes in the winter, there's things that you can do that you kind of all right, in the summertime it's too nice, and you want to you'll do that, when it's nice and cold, or, like a day like today, it's a little on the cloudy side, it's freezing. Just like last week, it was in the 40s. It's under 20 or something, right? Or is there something I want to get done before 4th of July, right? Or Memorial Day, right? Figure that out, right? How about the things that you kind of need to get done, right? But, going into the next year, right? I don't want to say I have a big loan to pay off, but I took a, don't do this, or at least unless you have to. It didn't really hurt me too much, but I ended up taking a loan in my 401k. It's at like 3.75, so by today's interest rate standby, it's really easy to service. But it's just kind of annoying because you pay it through your check, right? So my check is lower, right? So I used to have a certain amount of. The good news is I kind of reduced my spending, right? But I whatever that money is, I'm not putting enough in my 401k, so that money's gone already. So once I'm done paying with that, but maybe there's something equivalent to that, right? Or like something that you're like, all right, in 2025, maybe I need to buy a new car, or save up money for this thing that I know, and then that's another thing too, right? Like as you're thinking about that, maybe you find some, I call it more intermediary goals, right? Not necessarily short term, but kind of more medium term, right? Something that you need to get done in the next 3 years, 5 years. And you're like, all right, I want to make sure, that I don't just let it go away, but what can I do to set myself up so that I can make little steps going forward for the next couple of years, right? Like maybe you need to, to be honest, I've been needing to get a car myself too, but I just keep dragging my feet, and the car prices are just crazy. That's a whole nother different thing. But yeah, like, all right, so I meant necessarily like that year, right? But that, like, maybe you want to get healthier, right? Like, all right, well, I call that more of a long-term thing, right? Depending upon where you're at. Like for me, I was eating crappy years ago, right? And I was overweight, so, it was like every day I was trying to challenge myself, like, all right, don't do this, right? And then just kind of keep going forward. You take these little steps, right? It kind of gets back to that one video we were talking about with, persistence. What was it? Persistence and I don't remember. I should know my own videos, right? Like you guys like, oh, it's this and this in my brain right now. Yeah, so I use this time as like a little bit more reflection. Not just like, all right, what did I get? What things kind of, it's actually funny because we do this. We do this at work. Like, what went right? Oh, here's all the things that went right. Okay, what about the things that went wrong? Here's the things that kind of went wrong. And then you kind of like, all right, you kind of like, all right, this is why this, this thing went right. And you kind of like go, okay, because of this, right? And then something went wrong, okay, because of this, right? Sometimes things just go wrong, and it's just, there's no necessarily like a root cause per se, but we kind of do that, planning ahead going forward. And I do that at work, and I do that here at my house. And I probably should write them down more. I used to do that, like I said, because I was not really good at it, and I noticed that really helped. I don't know how your memory is either. Like if I actually take a piece of paper and like write it down, I won't forget it. But if I don't write it down, I forget it. I don't know, man. I got something. I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. That's just how I've always kind of been that way. But, after a while, at least for me, right? Like, I'm like, all right, it's kind of like the same. You're on the rat. You're like on that little rat wheel, right? I know. That's pretty much life, right? I got to work. I got to come back. But yeah. So a lot of things, like, I just kind of know, and then, But it can be bad, right? That's why I keep saying I think I might need to at least start a little bit, at least write them down. So number one, I kind of hold myself accountable. That's one thing about being a single guy, right? I have only myself to hold myself accountable, right? So that actually kind of is nice. So like that's why I like it. If you have a friend or someone that you can talk to, right? I mean, you guys can talk to me if you want, right? I can hold you accountable. I would love to do that. But like vice versa, right? I would love if, especially someone here, right? They would be, be like accountability partners or whatever they call that. I don't know. I don't know all the catchphrases that are out there. I'm not a psychologist or anything by any means. But yeah, so maybe think of, some of the things that you want to get done or goals that you want to. We talked about, how you have a goal. You want the end in sight and then work backwards. I've noticed that, especially not just in my professional career, but in my personal life, like things that I want to do. And then it might be a big goal, right? And then you just keep cutting it down, right? You need a path, right? It may not be a straight path, right? But you're like, all right, you got to have a couple, little, they call them, I think, signposts. I don't know. You guys can look this stuff up. It's all on the internet now. I think I got some old books. I don't know if you guys saw one video in my library, but I got books in there. I had to read this stuff, and you had to do it the old school way type of thing. But yeah, I use this time to kind of do some reflection, and I'll have a little extra time. But yeah, it's kind of like I need to kind of figure out what I really want to get, or how about this? What I need to, right? There's a lot of things I want to get done. Maybe they'll get done, maybe they won't, right? But yeah, think about stuff that you want to do, or things that you want to change, or right? And maybe it's the next couple of months, maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's a year, But I've noticed that when I do that, I get more things done. And maybe not necessarily more things done, but I feel I'm more at peace with it. I can accept it. Like, all right, well, I am making forward progress. And for me, I'm kind of like, I kind of look at life as a train ride. Kind of my body and kind of how I do my forward progression is just this, it might take a while, right? It's like, oh, it's hard, it's not really moving, right? It takes a lot of effort, right? Like a lot of energy, effort, and then finally it's like chug, 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 and then finally you're finally moving, and it's just kind of like you got a certain speed, it's just it might be a little bumpy, but it's just like, all right, it just keeps going, right? But on the flip side too, right? Like it might be hard to stop, right? You're so used to doing something. Good or bad habit, that's me, right? And sometimes it just takes forever to kind of get things going, right? So don't stress out about that. But the train analogy for me is good because I kind of want to. I don't get upset if a big goal I have, I don't get it right away. And when I mean like right away, like let's say I have a goal, right? And everyone thinks you can get this done in a year or two, right? Like for me, it's like if it doesn't happen, like whatever. I still have the plan, right? The goal is still here. It's just my time window, right? The time window needs to be longer, and I'm fine with that, right? As long as I'm still going forward, right? Maybe you make a misstep here and there, but man, as long as you take progressive steps, at least for me, right? So maybe figure that out, Another kind of analogy is like maybe the snowball effect. If you guys don't know what that, like you take a little bit of snow. I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about with a snowball, right? But the concept is, right, like you take a little something, right, and it keeps getting bigger, 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 right? And sometimes it's just a matter of getting it started, right? That's why I like the train analogy, right? But the snowball is like you keep continuously making this bigger, and you keep running it, right? So whatever analogy you want to look at, kind of, find, you probably have your own analogies. I got my own. Sometimes I make them up as, just like, hey, that's an analogy, right? I don't know. You guys notice my dumb brain just kind of, it just goes from topic to topic. But yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that. And how about this? Like, I don't know in the next couple of videos because this is like my well, it should be should be my last working week. I have a couple other things I kind of need to do the week before. I'm trying to figure out if we're going out of town to kind of do some hiking or something, but I don't know, man. I wish, but I might have a family member coming up here. If that's the case, things might change. So anyway, so maybe probably more like middle of probably next month. Make a video about like, hey, this is kind of what I'm thinking for the next year. And I'm pretty sure I'm only going to have a few goals that I kind of want to work on. But, a lot of the goals that I have are like significantly long-term goals. So maybe I kind of need to break those up and like, all right, you got a 10-year time window to do this. And most of it's kind of more for investment type of strategies. So, maybe I should be like, all right, to support my 10-year plan, all right. So I'll try to come up with something. I'm probably not going to show you the numbers or just kind of like, hey, this is kind of what I'm doing. I don't know. I might need to be speaking in code or something. But anyway, hope you all doing well. Again, Think about what you want to get done. What it could be. It could be anything. Literally anything in your life. Maybe just start off with one thing. Right? Like I said earlier. For me, sometimes you just get overwhelmed, or you don't think anything's gonna get better. Just like pick one thing, and it can be like the littlest. Right? You might be like, oh, that's not even a goal. It sounds kind of dumb. No, do it. That's what I found. And then if you do this, you'll feel. I don't want to say in control, right? But you'll be like, hey, right? You either did that happened, right? And then what's funny is all you need. It's like that last little snowflake that comes and it rests on the mountain, and then the whole avalanche goes. And what I mean by that is you never know. Some random thing that you did, right? And then you feel you have more control. Then you feel like you're less anxious, right? Then you're just right? And that can be a feed, I can't even, everything's backward. It can be like a feedback loop, right? It can start off small. I personally think some of the best things in life are the smallest things that no one looks at. And that's why I enjoy the things that I enjoy, right? Like for me, right? We're spending 3 hours at a coffee shop just drinking coffee and just, hey man, that can be extremely enjoyable for me, right? I always say find the little things that are inexpensive, right? And you come to find out some of those things have true value, right? There's no monetary value, right? And those are the things. But anyway, yeah, just keep doing it, and it can be something, like I said, it can be something that you think is dumb, or someone else. Yeah, how about this? Someone else thinks it's dumb, right? So no, who cares, right? Go back to my one video. Stop caring what other people think about you. So with that said, babbled. My apologies. I'll try to. Can you guys give me some recommendations on that? Yeah, maybe I should take my own. Yeah. Anyway, sorry about that. So I'll just say bye. Have a nice day. See you on the next show. Bye.